At some point, and maybe that point is right now, you may have started wondering what it would actually look like to build a life somewhere in Europe. Maybe it's about the freedom, your ability to pack up and move somewhere without asking for permission. Maybe it's about your kids and what schools do they go to, what passport do they carry, and what opportunities can open up because of where they're from. Or maybe it's stability, a backup, the feeling that no matter what happens in the world, you know you have options. Whatever it is, Europe keeps coming up. And so does the question, how do you actually get there? My name is Mustafa, and on this channel, I help people think clearly about global mobility, residency, and citizenship by investment, and how to actually build the strategy around them. If you want to understand what's happening in this space and how to think about it for your own situation, then subscribe. This is exactly what we cover on this channel. I understand that a lot of the information out there can be overwhelming and contradictory, and in a lot of cases, simply out of date. And I understand where you're coming from because I even encounter a lot of marketing for programs that I know that have closed, or timelines that have changed and are simply being falsely advertised. What I'm gonna do today is I'm gonna show you every legitimate residency by investment program in Europe that can lead to citizenship. How much it costs, what it requires, and who is it actually suitable for. But before I go into the programs, I just wanna give you the full picture, because investment is only one of 6 ways where a non-EU national can actually get or apply for residency in Europe and start to build a life there. So understanding the options that are available is very important as a starting point. The first option is residency by investment, and this is essentially the core of this video, where you make an investment in the fund, real estate, or bonds in that particular country, and the country grants you residency. Again, very straightforward. The second option is passive income or financially independent visa, where you prove to the government that you can sustain yourself through passive income that you have. So once again, the government grants you residency to be able to move in off of the money that you have or the passive income that you receive. The third option is digital nomad or a remote work visa, where you basically go and tell the country, I have a remote job or I'm a freelancer and that gives me a certain income every month and I'm able to sustain myself and my family. And a lot of countries in Europe offer this particular visa, and based on the ability to sustain or support yourself, you're offered residency. The fourth option is the entrepreneur or the business creation visa, where you basically apply to acquire a business, to start up a business of your own in that particular country. Maybe you will create jobs in that country, and based on that, the government will issue you a visa. So this is not a passive investment. Obviously, you have to be actively involved in starting up a business. The fifth option is tax optimization or lump sum regimes. And this is essentially where you agree to pay a fixed amount or a capped amount of tax, irrespective of your global income. The last option is sponsorship, where, for example, you get a job somewhere in Europe and the company that's offering you that job needs to sponsor you. So they sponsor your visa. Or if you're applying to a certain university in Europe, so they would issue a student visa for you to be able to go there and study for 3 or 4 years. This is a temporary visa that would allow you to stay there to either study or to work. I know this is not what you're watching it for, but this is one of the options to go and live in Europe, and it's important to be cognizant of all the options. So those are essentially the 6 doors into Europe. Different budgets, different timelines, different goals, lifestyles, so many things that are different. But whatever it is your reason, you're likely to find a path. So let's dive straight away into the countries that offer residency by investment programs and that also have a lump sum tax regime. Let's go. The first country is Hungary, with Budapest as its capital, one of the most spectacular cities in Europe, and it has a very, very decent cost of living in comparison to other European capitals. Now, from an investment standpoint, you would need to start off at 250,000 euros, and that's usually deposited into a real estate investment fund. Now, if you have no ambition to get a citizenship, you don't need to move into the country. However, if you do want to acquire citizenship, then you need genuine residence in the country. And the timeline looks as follows. After 3 years, you would be able to apply for the permanent residency. And after 8 years after receiving the permanent residency, you would be able to apply for the citizenship. So all in all, a total timeline of 11 years to get to a point to be able to apply for the citizenship. And you would also need to be proficient in Hungarian language. Now, when it comes to dual citizenship, there is no restriction there. When it comes to tax, it's actually one of the favorable programs in Europe. It's 15% flat personal income tax and 9% on the corporate income tax. However, the program is currently stalled. Not to mention that there are other risks. The first being that the government that took office in May 26 signaled a full review of the scheme, citing transparency concerns. So we don't know yet what is to come out of this. The second thing is that the timeline to citizenship is 11 years. So you'd be making a decade-long bet on the program staying in place and not changing. And this is obviously risky, especially under a government that's signaling review under a program that has changed before. This is great for the person that wants to move and live with their family, for example, in Hungary. But other than this, you need to consider all the risks because this program is currently being stalled. You need to consider the fact that the government is actively reviewing this program. So the timeline to citizenship, how laws might change in the future, is still a bit uncertain today. So for those that aren't very keen on moving to Hungary specifically, maybe this program is not for you. Next country is Switzerland, and this falls outside the residency by investment category and more towards the lump sum tax regime. Now, Switzerland is not technically EU or EEA, but there is a bilateral agreement with the EU. So essentially, in simple terms, Swiss citizens have the right to live, to move, to study in any of the European countries. So it's effectively as if it's the same or gives you the same rights as EU passport. So Switzerland doesn't have a golden visa program. What it does offer foreign nationals is a residency through the lump sum tax regime. So instead of getting taxed on your worldwide income, you actually get taxed on the deemed income, which is primarily based on the Swiss living expenses, and this is essentially used as the proxy. So the minimum taxable base starts at 435,000 Swiss francs. So as of today, 21 out of Switzerland's 26 cantons offer that regime. So let me give you a simple example mathematically so that you can work it out. One of the conditions or the scenarios under the calculation for the tax can be 7 times your annual rent. So to simplify, let's say your annual rent is 100,000 Swiss francs. So 100,000 times 7, that's 700,000. So obviously that exceeds the minimum of 435. So you're going to be taxed on that 700,000. So that 700,000 becomes your taxable base. So if your worldwide tax bill is actually higher than what you would pay under the Swiss regime, then this proposition actually becomes very attractive for you. But if it's not, then this trade-off is actually worth studying more. It depends on your particular circumstances and whether you are keen on moving to Switzerland or not. Citizenship typically requires at least 10 years of genuine residency in the country, successful integration, and at least a B1 proficiency in one of Switzerland's spoken languages. So Switzerland is not really a program that you buy into. This is a great option for those that have substantial wealth and would benefit a lot under this particular tax regime and would be able to save a lot of money on their international tax bill. And those that also have a desire for a country that has political neutrality, that has stability, and one of the world's strongest passports. Next country is Latvia, and Latvia has one of the cheapest entry points in European residency by investment in Europe today. Its capital city, Riga, is one of the most stunning medieval cities. The Baltic coast is beautiful. Its cost of living generally is among the lowest in the bloc. And if you're a budget-conscious person, Latvia is a name that tends to pop. So the investment in Latvia starts at 50,000 euros. Which need to be deposited or invested into a company. You have another option of 250,000, which could be invested into real estate. The third option is 280K, which are put into a bank deposit. Those are the three options that are available. Now, if once again, as long as you have or maintain those investments, you can have a residency there and you don't need to live in the country. But once again, if your goal is citizenship, then you need to have genuine residence in the country. Now, here's the timeline and what it actually looks like. And after 5 years of genuine presence in the country, you could apply for a permanent residency. You need to have reached a proficiency level of A2 in the Latvian language. After another 5 years, you'd be able to apply for the citizenship, and you need to be at least a B1 level in Latvian, and you need to pass a civic exam. The first issue with this program is that it doesn't allow dual citizenship for most non-EU nationalities, unless you hold an EU, NATO, Australian, New Zealand, or Brazilian passport. For most Middle Eastern, African, and Asian passports, you will need to drop your current nationality or passport in order to be able to get a Latvian citizenship. The second risk is that Latvia is currently overhauling its residency by investment program. Its parliament has proposed scraping the bank deposit option and the real estate option in favor for a state investment fund. How that plays out in the next coming weeks or months, that remains to be seen. Now, this program is great for the person who is considering Latvia as a pure residency play that will give them access to the Schengen area, to Europe, to be able to travel easily, and they don't foresee themselves living there. However, from a citizenship strategy perspective, it gets a bit complicated because the dual citizenship issue can be a deal breaker for most people. Next country is Italy. Now, where do you even begin, right? The food, the architecture, the pace of life, the fashion, all of this combined in Italy makes it one of the top destinations and one of the most sought after countries in the world for reasons beyond just the investment program. Now, its combination of lifestyle and financial structure actually makes it one of the compelling countries in this list. Now, as an investment, it starts at around 250K, which can be invested in an innovative startup. You have other options of investment, such as 500K, which can be invested into a company, an Italian company, or 2 million into a government bond, or 1 million as a philanthropic donation. If you're looking at this as a residency play, then as long as you maintain the investment, then you will continue to hold the residency permit. However, if your goal is citizenship, then you need to at least start by living there in the country. You need to at least be present 183 days of the year. And after 5 years of genuine residency, you can apply for the permanent residency. And after a total period of 10 years, you can apply for the citizenship. And obviously, you would need to pass a language exam, so you would need to be proficient in the Italian language. Now, the good thing about Italy is that there is no restriction when it comes to dual citizenship. Now, another thing I want to mention about Italy is that it has a flat tax regime, and this is completely separate from its residency by investment program or the thresholds that I mentioned earlier. So the thing about this program is that you need to pay a flat fee of 200,000 euros, and this is essentially your tax bill on all your worldwide income, irrespective of how much that is. So obviously that's a good option for those whose tax bill runs far beyond 200,000 euros. Now, that program or that offering is good for 15 years, and for every family member, you'd need to add another 25,000 euros on top of the 200,000. Now, the only requirement here is that you need to not have been a tax resident in Italy for at least 9 of the last 10 years. But other than that, it's a great option for those that want to live in Italy, whose tax bill runs significantly higher than 200,000 euros. So in all honesty, I'd say this is a great program, but again, it depends on you and what you're looking for. If this is a pure residency play for you, then having a residency in Italy can be a great thing. As long as you hold that investment, you will always have your residency. If this is a citizenship strategy for you, and you're keen on moving to Italy, learning the language, integrating there, then once again, it's a great option. You get to live in a beautiful country, and after 10 years, you can apply for the citizenship. Next country is Portugal, and one of the most beautiful and laid-back countries in Europe, a country that is blessed with sunshine most of the year and generally has a warm and a welcoming culture. Now, as a lot of you might know, Portugal has undergone recent changes to its residency by investment program. So let's go over it. Now, the first thing that you need to know is that Portugal is the only European program in the world where you can actually pursue EU citizenship without having to relocate there. The minimum investment starts at 250,000 euros for a cultural or artistic donation. Another option is 500,000 euros in an approved investment fund. Now, there is no requirement for you to live in the country, but there is a minimum requirement of 14 days every 2-year period. Now, after 5 years, you can apply for a permanent residency, and at this point, you can sell your investment if you had invested your money in one of their funds. And after another 5 years, which is a total of 10-year period, you would be able to apply for the citizenship. And your proficiency level in the Portuguese language needs to be at least at level A2, which is one of the lowest on the list. Now, the key risk for the Portugal program is the long citizenship timeline and the processing delays and the evolving changes to the immigration rules. So according to the recent law changes, the 10-year countdown to citizenship eligibility starts from when you receive your residency card. Now, due to the processing delays, it might be a few years before you receive that card. And there are also processing delays when you come to apply for your citizenship, which is why a realistic timeline to citizenship for the Portugal program can be 13, 14, or maybe even 15 years. Depends on the delays the government is facing, be it at the processing of residence permits or citizenship. So I'd say this is a great program for someone that is seeking EU citizenship and is not in a position to relocate and is not really rushed to get the citizenship and is willing to wait a 10 to 15 year timeline in order to reach citizenship stage. Next country is Cyprus, a small island with over 300 days of sunshine a year. It has Mediterranean warmth. It's a very beautiful, small country. Now, from an investment perspective, it would start at 300,000 euros, which would need to be invested into a property or alternatively shares into a company. And you would get permanent residence from day one. You just need to visit once every 2 years to continue to renew the PR, and as long as you maintain your investment, you will continue to hold your PR. Now, when it comes to citizenship, if you're seeking citizenship, then you need to move there and you need to have genuine residence of at least 183 days a year. And after 8 years, you could apply for citizenship after reaching a proficiency in the Greek language of B1 and after passing a civic exam. And there is no restriction by Cyprus on a dual citizenship. An important thing I want to say is that while Cyprus is EU, it's not currently Schengen. So as long as you only have a residency, that won't exempt you from getting a Schengen. But once you become naturalized, then you become an EU citizen, and then you can live, work legally anywhere in Europe. So I would say Cyprus's program is geared towards someone that really wants to live in Cyprus, who doesn't mind not having Schengen access for at least 8 years and is willing to wait that 8-year period to be able to be an EU citizen. Next country is Greece. Greece runs one of the most popular golden visa programs today, and for a good reason, obviously. Now, its investment starts at 250,000 euros, which can be in a startup or a conversion project, could be 400,000 euros in particular real estate areas, could be 800,000 plus in larger cities such as Athens or larger islands such as Mykonos or Santorini. This is a pure residency play. As long as you hold the investment, you will continue to hold the residency in the country. But if you're targeting citizenship, then you need to genuinely live in the country. You need to be there or present at least 183 days of the year. And after 5 years, you could apply for permanent residency. And 2 years after that, you would be eligible to apply for citizenship. So all in all, a timeline of 7 years, and you need to pass a civic exam and a language test. So you need to be at the proficiency level of at least B1 in the Greek language. And with regards to the dual citizenship, there is no restriction in Greece for a dual citizenship. So I would say Greece is actually a great program for two types of people. The first being those that are seeking a pure residency that would give them access to the Schengen area, to Europe, by simply having the residency, and there is no ambition or no need to relocate to the country. The second type, obviously, is for those that want to move to the country, that are seeking citizenship, that are willing to learn the language, to integrate well, and hence seek citizenship. Another thing to mention about Greece is that they have a non-dom tax regime, which is separate from the residency by investment program. Essentially, you would pay 100,000 euros on all your foreign income, but you would need to make an investment in the country of at least 500,000 euros to qualify for that. Next country is Bulgaria, and Bulgaria joined the Schengen area in Jan 2025, and they adopted the euro in Jan 2026. Now its investment starts at 512,000 euros, which can be invested in an approved alternative investment fund or in an ETF, an exchange traded fund. Now from day one after your application, you receive permanent residency. Once again, if this is a citizenship play, then you need to move into the country. And this is one of the shorter timelines. So after 5 years, you'd be able to apply for the citizenship, provided that you show proficiency in the Bulgarian language and you pass that exam. Now, the issue with Bulgaria is that you also need to renounce your other nationalities because they don't allow dual citizenship. So I'd say the program works well for someone that is purely seeking residency to have EU and Schengen access. But again, for non-EU nationals, they would need to drop their other nationality if they were to seek citizenship. So for a lot of people watching this would pretty much be a deal breaker and not really an acceptable option for them. So if your goal is citizenship, maybe this is not the right country for you. Next country is Malta. Malta is a small, beautiful country in the middle of the Mediterranean. It has sunshine most days of the year, and its investment would start from 150 to 180,000 euros. Now you would need to make that investment, but you would also need to show that you have a net worth of at least 500,000 euros, with at least 150 of those being in financial assets. Now from day one of your application, you get permanent residency. There's no requirement for you to live there as long as you're not really seeking citizenship. But if you are, then after 5 years of genuinely residing there, you could apply for citizenship. Now, the issue with Malta is that citizenship is completely discretionary. So you can live there 5 years, show genuine integration, but essentially it will be up to the government or the minister's office to accept or reject your application. So that's what I mean by it's discretionary. The country doesn't have any restriction when it comes to dual citizenship. They also have a non-domicile tax regime, which would only apply to foreign income that you bring into the country. And the minimum tax on foreign income is 5,000 euros per year. So I would say this is a great program for two types of people. The first being those that want to have a foothold in Europe and want to have residency and move easily in the Schengen area. The second being those that want to actually live in the country, that appreciate its Mediterranean vibe, its weather, its English-speaking nature. All of these things could be appreciated by a lot of people. And there is also a path to naturalization, but you understand the risk. Next and final country is Luxembourg. Now, in Luxembourg, you need to make an investment of at least 500,000 euros in a qualified business or a financial vehicle. Now, this is a sort of program that you need to move there. In order to apply for this program, you need to have intent to move to the country. Now, one of the shortest periods to naturalization after living there for 5 years, you can apply to citizenship, and you need to pass a language exam of one of the national languages, either the Luxembourgish, French, or German. And after then, you can get naturalized and you can actually have one of the strongest passports in the world. And when it comes to dual citizenship, there is no restriction by Luxembourg. Luxembourg is generally a small country with a population of around 700,000 people. And the program is very selective. The annual volumes are very low. So this is not really a program that you browse online and apply for. You need to have genuine desire and intent to live and operate in the country, to build a life there, to integrate there. And if you do so, again, this is one of the fastest paths to get citizenship in Europe. One thing you need to know about this program is that it may be Europe's most exclusive program. And the reason for that, it's not because it's difficult to qualify, it's because nobody applies for it. Since its launch in 2017, only 15 applications were submitted. 9 of them were approved, which prompted the government to propose shutting the program down. Now, how this will go in the coming period, that remains to be seen. So here's what I want you to take away from this video, which is what sort of life do you want to build, and whether there's a path for it in Europe that fits it. Now, if you want a citizenship without relocating, Portugal is the only country on that list, but you need to understand the long timeline that it entails. But if you actually want to move, then the choice becomes about what matters to you most. Language, lifestyle, culture, timeline, budget, your children's schools, if you're okay speaking English or do you want to learn Greek or Italian. All of these things need to be factored into your consideration. If you're really not sure of where you're at, that's totally fine. That's exactly where most people are when they start thinking of something like this. The worst thing you can do right now is let someone sell you a program without understanding yourself and what it is that you want. Which is why I always say strategy before solution. Now I want to hear directly from you. Drop me a comment below and tell me which one of the countries that I covered today generally interests you. Your comments genuinely shape what I cover next. And if this was useful to you, then subscribe and I'll see you in the next video.